All right, we're going to talk about getting ghosted by college coaches, why that happens, what you can do to prevent it. And this is one of the most important parts of the recruiting process. It's incredibly frustrating, and yet the stakes are incredibly high because you could get as much interest as you want. But if you're not able to actually turn that interest into a scholarship offer, then it's like you didn't even get interest in the first place, and there are going to be consequences to pay. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a Twitter thread that I wrote talking about why college coaches ghost players and what you can do to prevent that. Because if you've been in the recruiting process for any amount of time, you've probably experienced this, or you're worried that you're going to experience this at some point. And so I want to talk about why this happens, and I want to talk about what you can do to prevent it, okay? Because I've seen it 1,000 times, right? A college coach will show interest in your kid, and however that interest came about, right, doesn't really matter. It could have been through an email you sent. It could have been through a Twitter DM. It could have been from a showcase or a tournament. It doesn't really matter how that interest came about. But you got interest from a college coach. You, as a family, get excited. You're like, oh my gosh, this was a school that we really wanted to hear from. We're really excited about this school. Everything seems to be going great. Now, a couple weeks go by, and you're under the impression that the college coach is going to be watching your kid like a hawk, right? They're going to be following the games. They're going to be tracking the stats. They're going to be communicating with you and checking in. This is the impression that you are under, and I'm just here to tell you that it's wrong, okay? That's not how this is going to work. But you don't know this, and so weeks and months go by, and you haven't really heard from the coach, and you feel like this is a little bit weird, like you were expecting to hear from them, and so you go, well, we really should probably reach out on our end, but you don't want to be pushy, you don't want to be annoying, and so again, you let more time go by, and eventually it's become so much time that it's weird that you feel like you haven't reached out at all. And so you have your kid go back to the computer and type up an email that sounds something like, hey, I know we haven't chatted in a while. How are you? Can we hop on a call? Right? You start saying things like that, and what you don't know is that the relationship is already long gone, and you've lost that opportunity, and the coach never replies to that email, and you go, oh my gosh, I think we blew it. Now, you might have blown it, so I want to make sure that doesn't happen, right? Now, why does this happen? Well, it's because of this mistake. You assume that the coach is thinking about you all the time, that because the coach has shown interest one time, that now buys you all of their time and attention all the time, and it's simply not the reality. Right? It's not the reality. You may be thinking about the school all the time because you're living and breathing this, but college coaches have lots of other things on their plates. It's unlikely that they're going to be thinking about you all the time, unless you're some incredible player. Your kid is just an incredible player. That's a different story, but the odds that that's what's happening, probably not that good, okay? Your kid is probably a good player, but probably not a top 5% player. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video and having a college coach ghost you, because those coaches wouldn't ghost you, okay? So you haven't earned the right yet to think that the college coach is going to be thinking about you all the time. So at any given moment, a college coach is recruiting multiple players, they're coaching their own team, they're attending school events, they're taking care of their own family, they're spending time with friends. Like, they got a million other things on their plate. They are not going to give a recruit that they have chatted with via email or on the phone one time or seen 3 videos of, they're not going to give that recruit a ton of their time and attention. They just haven't earned it yet, right? And so there is a lot more work that has to be done between getting the initial interest and getting a scholarship offer. There's a lot more work that has to be done in order for that to actually happen. And so what ends up happening, right, is that the family will put the entire burden of communication on the college coach. You're like, listen, they've shown interest. They will check in with us. They will communicate with us. They will follow us. They will track us. They have way too many other things going on, and you make them reach out to you every single time. And then all these months go by, and you sit there wondering, why haven't they messaged us? Why haven't they reached out? Is it too pushy if I reach out to them, right? And then by then, they've already found somebody else because they're recruiting multiple players for your position in grad class right now, right? That's happening. That's reality. So if you make their lives hard, there will be consequences. You're going to lose those opportunities. You have to do something with the interest that you get. You cannot just let it sit there. Those relationships will fizzle. And so that's what it's all about. To get scholarships, you have to build relationships with college coaches. You have to take them from A to B. You have to take them from somewhat interested in you to I need this player on my team right now. And that difference between those two is usually doubt, right? And when I say doubt, by the way, what I mean is doubt that your kid is the perfect player for their team. That's what I mean. And so as you prove your kid's value over time and you keep crossing hurdles, the doubt decreases and the confidence increases. The confidence that your kid is the perfect player for their team. So all you're doing is removing doubt over a longer period of time. And a lot of families do it the first time. They get that initial interest and then they never remove any more doubt. They never build any more confidence. And so the college coach just has a ton of doubt and ends up going and recruiting somebody else. A relationship is a two-way street. You cannot put the entire burden of communication on a college coach and then expect to hear from them all the time. It's just not going to happen. Both parties must communicate. You must be communicating with them. They must be communicating with you. Too much communication and you overwhelm the coach. If you follow up with coaches too often, you're going to kill those relationships, right? They're going to be like, this kid needs to stop. This is annoying. Right? But at the same time, if you communicate too little, they're going to completely forget that you exist. There's too many things going on. They're going to get other opportunities to see more players for your position in grad class, and you're just going to be one of like 25 on the list, and you're going to be completely forgotten. And then you're going to miss out on the opportunity, and that's the consequence of not knowing how to follow up, right? You need to find the sweet spot of that communication. And families often think that generating initial interest is the hard part of the recruiting process. Listen, it's hard to generate initial interest in the recruiting process. That's hard. But I'm telling you, it is even harder to turn that interest into scholarship offers. There's way too many factors that you cannot control, and that makes it much harder. It is always dynamic. It's always changing, and that's what makes it hard. Generating initial interest is easier because it's more predictable. Like there's more things that are within your control when you're generating initial interest than there are when you're trying to turn initial interest into a scholarship offer. That's what makes this part hard. There is no cookie cutter formula. There is no, I'm just going to do it this one way. No, every single relationship has to be handled differently. And if you handle it wrong, you'll lose the opportunity. The stakes are incredibly high. I understand that. But the sweet spot for communication is going to depend on the school. It's going to depend on how that relationship has been going, the past communication, what their level of confidence is in you. All of those things are going to be changing all the time. And if you are just putting the entire burden of communication on a college coach and you are not owning that process at all, they're going to completely forget about you and they're going to go recruit someone else. And that is why recruiting relationships often fizzle, and I don't want that to be you. So anyway, I wrote this thread on Twitter. You can go check us out on Twitter if you want. And if you enjoyed this video, then go check out some of the other YouTube videos that we have on the channel. There's lots of information on there, and I'll see you guys later.